In 1923, writer and art critic Felix Salten wrote Bambi, A Life in the Woods. After gaining popularity in its native Austria, Bambi was then translated into English in 1928, where the intended adult audience and also children fell in love with the life of this deer. Because of the book describing the beauty of the Austrian forests and the sympathy Salten gives to the animals that live there, Bambi is considered by some to be one of the first environmentalist novels ever written, which is a bit of a coincidence considering as the writing of this script,
The Amazon forest is on fucking fire!
Hi, I'm CB Smith, and I'm going to be talking about Bambi, both the book and the movie that's based on that we're all familiar with. But even then, I'm going to still do my best not to spoil anything too much for you guys. Bambi's film rights were originally sold for $1,000 by director Sidney Franklin and was going to be live action, realizing that wouldn't be very possible until 2019 when animated movies can call themselves live action. What started was 5 years worth of work trying to realistically animate not only the animals, but also the forest. Animals in Rain were animated by Disney before, but they weren't the main focus. In Bambi, the humans never show up on screen, so what we have is a story told entirely from the perspective of the animals and the forest itself. Disney's Bambi's backgrounds were developed by Chinese-American artist Tyrese Wong, who was inspired by watercolor art from the Song Dynasty 1,000 years ago. What is made here is a great adaptation of Salten's descriptions of the forest, which was simplistic in its wording, but at the same time conveyed a lot of emotion. In that aspect, both book and movie is full-on nature porn. The yellow bird rejoiced. He flew to and fro among the branches, and his round yellow body flashed in the morning light like a winged ball of gold. Bambi walked under the great oak on the meadow. It sparkled with dew. It smelled of grass and flowers and moist earth. Whew. Is it hot in here or is it just me? It's me, because I turned off the AC to film. Now, when it comes to adapting works, whether it be fairy tales or novels, Disney definitely follows the idea of what they are making is a Disney movie first, then an adaptation second. There isn't much I could find on Salten's opinion of the movie, but he was known to refer to it as Disney's Bambi, to differentiate from his work. But Pamela Travers, author of the Mary Poppins novels, was very vocal about Disney's portrayal of her work, where she ended up crying at the movie's premiere, thinking to herself, what have they done? When writing Bambi, Salten intended for an adult audience. It just so happened that children were enjoying it as well. Disney did what Disney does, and adapted Bambi with children in mind. What this means is the events that happen in the book do happen, but with more color and even more importance is put on what were otherwise minor scenes in the book. Bambi's mom doesn't just give birth to Bambi with a few animals passing by. It becomes an event that everyone is there to see. And while Bambi learning to walk is given a single page of narration in the book, the artists at Disney wanted to really flex their animation muscles with this montage of Bambi flailing and falling. Disney also gave Bambi some friends like Thumper and Flower. In Salten's book, it's Bambi's mom that teaches Bambi everything from the names of the other animals in the forest to how to walk and where to go to avoid danger. There are also scenes in the book where Bambi and his mom are playing out in the meadow. Nearly all of the scenes involving Bambi and his mom were now given to Thumper. While there is a character named Old Hare that appears from time to time in the book, he's another adult character similar to the wise old owl who also is in the book, and like Bambi's mom is played as generally the same way, someone to spout advice onto Bambi and likes to play around with him a bit. The only children characters that are in Salten's book playing with Bambi are his cousins Gobo and Faline. What? Disney didn't mention that Bambi's love interest was also his cousin? I mean, it was not mentioned. CB Smith, ruining childhoods one book at a time. It's at this point in the story where in the book, Bambi is spending more time away from his mom, and more time either alone or with his cousins. A lot of times they play around or talk and figure out what the word danger means, since as children they only know danger as a word and something vague to be careful of. Then as they get older, they hear the adult deer talk about him. Man is shown only a few times in the book, and it's always from a distance. The animals don't have a name for him, and they don't truly understand what he is. Some think he has 3 arms, and he throws the 3rd arm, or maybe it's a tooth at the animals. He can do this because, as Bambi mom explains, he's all fire inside. In the movie, you don't see Man, but you know of his presence. You hear the gunshots and you can tell that all the animals in the forest know of him and fear him, and he is given a name. He is called Man by the animals, while in the book he is a mysterious creature outside the forest ecosystem known only as him. Which means it's time to talk about Bambi's mom. This is my warning. The next few minutes I'm going to be talking about death in general and as it pertains to this story. I'm going to be showing pictures and videos, both animated and real life, of hunters and hunting, and the animals they've killed, and animals killing other animals. I'm gonna try to insert some jokes in here to try to not be a big downer, but writing this, I already feel like I'm gonna fail horribly at that. I understand that this is a heavy subject matter, and if anyone would like to skip it, I wouldn't fault them for it. You should probably end the video now, and come back for part 2. This was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be, so now it's a 2-parter. So, now they're all caught up to speed, Bambi's mom. This messed up generations of kids, and honestly the entire culture surrounding hunting in general. Even Stephen King called Bambi the first horror movie he saw that seriously scarred him as a kid. The entire first part of this movie is set up to make this such a gut punch. Bambi's mom is here as the only parental figure in Bambi's life. Like both book and movie, his father is not around. While in the book, Bambi's mom teaches him everything. As he got older, she leaves him alone, and he grows accustomed to being by himself and grows proud that he can fend for himself in the forest until winter. It's at this part of the story all the deer are together for warmth and protection. That isn't entirely the case for the movie, where during the warmer months he does have fun with the other animals. He always went back to his mom. And during the winter scenes, it's a glimpse at how their life now is focused on just surviving till the snow melts. And when I say glimpse, it's just a glimpse because it's gonna get dark. The winter months in the book begin with two leaves having a discussion with each other about how there aren't many of them left. They wonder what happens after they fall off the branch. They try to forget and think about all the good times they've had, and how long they outlived their neighbors. Then, in the middle of these conversations, they make like a tree and fucking die!
Leave, you idiot. Make like a tree and leave. You sound like a damn fool when you say it wrong. All right then.
While there are a few mentions in the book of Bambi having fun during the winter, like enjoying the sound his hooves make walking on the corpses of all those dead leaves, they are few and far between. There are no cute moments of Bambi trying to stand on the ice and playing with his friends in the forest. The full title of the book is Bambi, A Life in the Woods, and a major part of life is death. Death comes in this book very early, when Bambi hears a fox eating another animal in the forest. Bambi's mom tells him it's nothing to be afraid of. During the winter months, it gets worse. As the snow falls, there isn't as much food around for any of the animals in the forest. Animals that in the book would maybe talk to each other would now start eating each other. With one instance in particular involving a squirrel escaping a ferret, but bleeding to death, begging for help from the other animals, only for them to swoop down and eat his corpse. I did say before that not everybody may have the appetite for this. I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow. You know what? I'm just going to let everyone just digest it for a little bit. Damn it! While the movie shows a harshness in the forest at winter with how little food is left for them to eat, Disney steered far, far away from the fact that the forest is an interconnected ecosystem of predators and prey, and even sometimes that line is blurred between the two. The book gives us this fact front and center throughout the story, but even Salten himself omitted from the fact that deer and other herbivores will eat meat in rare instances if they're very sick or are incredibly desperate for nutrients. Oh hey Bambi, what's that you got there? Oh my god! If I had any hope of reaching new subscribers of this channel, I think I just lost it with that clip. And we haven't even gotten to the hunters yet. Like I mentioned before, the hunters in the movie are never shown, but the presence is there, always lingering. Unlike the book, the movie hunter causes all the misery in the forest. That doesn't mean man is totally innocent in the book. I'm not even gonna lie, guys. It's a bloodbath. There is this constant conversation about man's role in the forest by the animals. Some talk about how sometimes he comes to feed and pet them, and then the other times.
Don't fly. He's almost here. I can't stand it any longer.
We get hunters by themselves stalking in the forest. We get them mimicking deer calls to lure them out. We also get a technique called batu, where animals are chased out by groups of hunters, beating the trees with sticks, and dogs leading them out. It was used long ago for fox hunting, but it is mostly used nowadays to hunt wild boar, mostly in France. All of this culminates in some of the most violent, heart-wrenching moments I've read in a book in a very long time. Once the hunters enter the novel, it stops feeling like the innocent, calming nature book you started out with, and is now a story of suspense and horror. Even depicting the hunters sometimes as good people, the overwhelming amount of time it's danger for the animals and death. You would think hunters would hate this book.
You killed my mother!
Sucks to be you.
And yet, hunters like the book. And we're going to be talking about that and the legacy of this little book and the movie that inspired it in the next episode. This is CB Smith, and thanks for taking a page.